What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Star Trek Reviews by a guy who's just a casual viewer of Star Trek. Look, it's been a crappy couple of days. 2020 seems dead set on spitting on us at every turn. So let's try to cheer ourselves up by complaining about a silly space show where the destruction of an entire planetary body plays second fiddle to Mariner screwing up her friend's sex life. Also, there might be a brain parasite in there. Hit the intro and let's get started. So in this episode, the Thorias is teaming up with another ship, the Vancouver, to assist in the demolition of an unstable moon that's about to drop out of orbit, crash into a planet, and kill everyone who lives there. Sounds straightforward enough, except that the inhabitants of the planet don't want them to destroy the moon because they're all idiots. Literally, every issue they're bitching about requires there to be both a moon and a planet, but if they don't destroy the moon, neither one will exist anymore. And sure, destroying the moon would probably screw up the planet's gravity, cause massive ecological disasters like tidal waves and God knows what else, rendering the planet incredibly dangerous, if not completely uninhabitable, but at least the planet would still be there. And as for all that other stuff, who cares? That's for upper decks to sort out. We've got more important things to deal with, like Mariner's complete and utter disbelief that a woman actually finds Boimler attractive. Boimler's super excited because his new girlfriend, Barbara, who we met last month, works on the Vancouver, so the two ships working together on this mission means that him and Barb will get to, do stuff. But Mariner thinks any stuff they do will be taking place on a holodeck, meaning that surely Barb is just a hologram, because Boimler couldn't possibly attract a real flesh-and-blood woman. That would be sheer madness. Also, Rutherford and Tendi are doing maintenance stuff, remarking how the Cerritos always has something wrong with it and has a ton of light years on it, and how much cooler the Vancouver must be. And sure enough, when they go over there, the Vancouver is the coolest ship they've ever seen. Or so they say. It looks like the same exact ship except bigger, but whatever. And then Barb appears, and Mariner is absolutely dumbfounded that she is A, a lieutenant, B, attractive, and C, real. Like, not a hologram, a real living, breathing woman who actually likes Boimler and everything. And you can almost see Mariner's brain short-circuiting over this. Suddenly, nothing in her universe makes sense anymore. She's like a 4-year-old kid who snuck downstairs on Christmas Eve night and walked in on Santa Claus and her mother 69ing. She has no idea what to do with this information. It just won't compute. Boimler's then similarly flummoxed when Barb runs into her ex-boyfriend, Jet, who is tall, muscly, an officer, the second coolest person on the Cerritos, after Mariner of course, and whose penis is probably much, much bigger than his. The writers go out of their way to pretty much confirm that last one later on. And unfortunately, Barb and Jet have been assigned to work together, so she can't hang out with Boimler right now. Aw, shucks. She's still really into Boimler though, which strikes Mariner as very suspicious. Meanwhile, one of the Vancouver officers has Tendi and Rutherford running diagnostics. I'm not sure why he couldn't get some of his own people to do that, given that Tendi and Rutherford have diagnostics to run on their own ship, but that never comes up. And they're really gung-ho about this assignment because he's gonna let them use these newfangled tricorders that are better than normal tricorders because they have a racing stripe or something, and whoever finishes their work first gets to keep one. So they run their diagnostics in the Jeffries tube, and this makes me wonder about something. What exactly is Tendi's job? Because she's got the blue uniform, I thought that meant she was a doctor of some kind, and she says she works in medical, but here she is doing engineering stuff. Is Rutherford the only engineer on these two ships that they just had to get anyone they could find to help him out? Or is Tendi like Tom Paris, where she just does everything because specializing in just one department is for losers? I don't know. Because they both finished their work at the exact same time, they both get to keep the tricorders. But they'll be keeping them on the Vancouver, which they're being transferred to. Oh no, and they were such fun characters. How will the show ever recover from this tragic loss? They decide they'd rather stay on the Cerritos with all their friends, but he's transferring them whether they like it or not. So they grab his iPad and they throw it back and forth like they're kindergartners playing keep away with his lunch or something. He chases them with a phaser and shoots Rutherford a couple times. With the way this show's been going, I'm honestly shocked he didn't hit Rutherford in the crotch with that thing. Then Tendi hacks the iPad and finds out that this guy was planning to transfer himself to the Cerritos, swapping himself for them. Which is confusing. I don't know why he couldn't just request a transfer, why there has to be an exchange for this to happen, or how it's an equal exchange to swap a lieutenant for 2 ensigns, one of whom isn't even in the same department as him. And not surprisingly, the writers don't explain any of this either. So he starts crying, and he says that being on an awesome ship like the Vancouver is way too much pressure, and he just wants to work on a ship that sucks, so he could have it easy and slack off, I guess. Oh, sure, as long as you don't mind zombie apocalypses and hostile boarding parties spearing the crew to death every other week, working on the Cerritos is a walk in the f***ing park. So he cancels the transfer order, and they blackmail him into letting them keep those cool new tricorders, which are so awesome because they can scan things faster than normal tricorders, I think. And that's the end of that. So Boimler and Mariner are both freaking out. Boimler because he thinks Barb is cheating on him with the way cooler jet, and Mariner because she's convinced that Barb is an evil android or alien shapeshifter in disguise who wants to kill and eat Boimler because the only other option is that Boimler attracted an honest-to-God woman on his own merits. And what are the odds of that happening, am I right? She does have a reason for thinking this, though. When she was serving on a different ship, she had a friend whose boyfriend was an evil alien shapeshifter in disguise who killed and ate her. And she'll be damned if she's gonna let that happen again. After all, if Boimler died, who would Mariner routinely emasculate to make herself feel big? So Boimler tries to act all cool with Barb while she's trying to do her work, but just embarrasses himself, showing how much cooler Jet is by comparison. While he's doing that, though, Mariner scans Barb and finds out that she is in fact organic. So cross evil android off the list. Cut to the captain trying to play diplomat to all these crazy aliens. She's finally able to make everyone happy except one guy who lives on a different moon and says that if they implode this moon, then everyone on his moon will die because reasons. And then later it turns out the entire population of that moon is just him and his wife. So they implode the moon, and this is awful for him because they just retiled the bathroom or some shit. This was a harmless enough subplot, I guess, but it wasn't funny or annoying really, so it kinda just felt like filler. It's also the second episode in a row where the thing in the story that feels the most like a Star Trek plot is the least important thing about it. I don't know if they're doing this on purpose, but again, it does make me wonder exactly what audience the writers think they're playing to here. Back to Mariner, who's in full-blown conspiracy theory mode, coming up with weirder and weirder ideas about who Barb really is or what Barb really is, because her being a transporter clone or a surgically altered Cardassian or a fucking Suliban of all things still makes more sense than her being attracted to poor, pathetic Boimler. Boimler thinks she's acting insane, and Barb is a perfectly normal woman, and Mariner just needs to accept people for who they are. He then tries to change everything about himself so Barb will think he's way cooler than he actually is. And that was this episode's almost, kind of, sort of, but not quite funny joke. Every episode gets one, apparently. So Boimler goes to meet Barb wearing some kind of Frankenstein outfit that's a hodgepodge of a dozen different cool cliches. He looks like a complete idiot, and strangely enough, this does succeed in lighting Barb's uterus on fire with lust a little bit, but him spilling his beer on her puts that fire out pretty fast. Then Mariner steals a lock of her hair and scans that, making Mariner almost positive that Barb is a reptoid who wants to implant her reptoid spawn in Boimler's body or something. And that has to be it. I mean, the only other explanation is that Barb is an ordinary human woman who is physically attracted to Boimler, and science fiction of that magnitude has no place on a Star Trek show. Boimler goes to talk to Barb again. He thinks he hears her doing sex with Jet, but they're just doing normal Starship stuff. She wants to know why he's been acting so weird, and he admits that he feels insecure because she's so cool and he's such a loser, and maybe she should be with a guy like Jet. But it's all good, because Barb likes him for him, despite all his egregious loser qualities. So, all is forgiven, they start to make out, but Mariner thinks this is a diabolical trap so Reptoid Barb can stab Boimler with her Reptoid tail and implant her Reptoid eggs in him, so she pulls Barb's pants down. There's no tail, Mariner looks like a jackass, and I actually kinda like this. Mariner is a lot. Nothing's changed about that. She's a lot. But this isn't the usual shtick they do, where Mariner is super amazing and badass at everything without even trying. This is Mariner acting like a neurotic, irrational nutbag and being rightfully called out for it, which is a lot easier to swallow. It's just a shame it won't last very long. Then Mariner finds some cocoon husk type thing on the ground, and she realizes that Barb must be an evil alien parasite. So she locates Boimler on some orbital platform that she has to do a spacewalk to get to, which she does because she's insane, and she walks in on Boimler buck naked and getting ready to show Barb his captain's log. And they don't leave a lot to the imagination either. It's full frontal, just with a digital pasty over his naughty bits. Just a little one though, because Boimler having a small penis is the height of comedy. So she says his girlfriend's a parasite, he says Mariner's just a lunatic, then the platform starts shaking because I guess it's right next to the moon they're about to destroy, thus making this the perfect place for a booty call. Boimler falls and gets knocked out, Mariner checks on him, Barb walks in on Mariner with her unconscious naked boyfriend, and I guess that can only mean that Mariner is a surgically altered Klingon infiltrator or some shit, so they fight. Each of them think the other woman is some kind of alien parasite, but they finally stop fighting when they find common ground. That common ground being that they both think Boimler is a complete loser. They start sharing funny stories about embarrassing things Boimler did and stupid situations he got himself into because that's what losers do, and Barb even offers to let Mariner scan her again. So she does, and the scan reveals that Barb is in fact human. She's not a parasite after all. Now, if you're wondering why the hell Mariner didn't realize that after the first or second time she scanned Barb in this episode, well, so am I. Now, there is a parasite as it turns out, but it's actually attached to Boimler, and this species reproduces by making its host chemically irresistible to potential mates. And since Boimler must have picked this thing up right before he met Barb, there's your explanation for why a non-holographic sentient human woman would be interested for 1 second in poor, pathetic, small penis-having Boimler. Now, Barb denies that she was only with Boimler because of parasitic pheromones, but then she breaks up with him anyway to focus on her job, and she f***s off. But not before making plans to hang out with her new BFF Mariner. Those two really bonded over how much of a loser they both think Boimler is, so now Mariner and Barb are like this, and in the most shocking plot twist ever, I'm sure, Boimler is SOL. So let me get this straight. Not only did Mariner cockblock Boimler and completely humiliate the poor bastard again, but she also stole his girlfriend. Which, I admit I did chuckle at, but not for the reasons I was supposed to. It was less ha-ha that's really funny and more like I gotta laugh to keep from crying. Because the writers keep beating the same horse to death over and over and over again, and I feel really bad for the horse. But I'm torn between wanting to put it out of its misery and wanting to stick around out of morbid curiosity to see how long it can desperately cling to life before the writers get bored and ship it off to the glue factory. And the episode ends with Tendi and Rutherford revealing that they each stole a bag full of those super cool new tricorders. Yay? This episode came close to being alright. The B and C plots were just kinda there taking up screen time, but the Boimler, Barb, Mariner stuff I thought was okay until the end. Yeah, the characters were acting stupid, but not in an annoying way, rather in a neurotic cartoon character way, which is what they're supposed to be. Also, Mariner spent most of the episode acting like a batshit crazy person, seemingly being rightfully admonished for it, appeared to be in the wrong for once, which I liked, But then the swerve happens, and we find out that Mariner was on the right track all along, and by the end, she's right back to being super awesome badass Mariner, who can Star Trek better than you and steal your girlfriend at the same time. Shocking. And that swerve created some weird plot holes, too. You're telling me that husk the parasite hatched out of was just sitting there on the deck for a fucking month and no one saw it? How is that possible? Why were the parasite's pheromones affecting Barb when she works on a different ship and hadn't seen Boimler in weeks? Why had the pheromones not been affecting women on the Cerritos who work in close proximity with Boimler every day? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I might have been willing to overlook some of these things if the writers hadn't started lazily leaning on the same crutch they always seem to come back to, but they did because they just think humiliating Boimler is endlessly hilarious on general principles. That and dick jokes. They've got a weird fascination with dick jokes. And hey, if you want that to be a recurring bit, fine. But you have to know how and when to do it. Because if you're doing it all the time just to do it, the bit's gonna get old real fast. And once that happens, people aren't gonna be laughing at Boimler, and they're not gonna be laughing at the show. They're gonna be laughing at you. And it's possible that you people behind current year Star Trek have gotten accustomed to fans laughing at you in the last few years, so it feels normal now, but I assure you, that's not a good thing. So maybe try to do, I don't know, better? Just a suggestion. If you enjoyed this review, or if you didn't, leave me a comment. I'd really appreciate it. Ding that bell icon and follow me on social media to be notified when I upload new videos. The link is down there. Thumbs up the video, share it with everyone you've ever met, subscribe to the channel, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.